Chris Lee and Max Barr of Southeastern 14 here to preview some SEC ACC Challenge action. It's going to happen Tuesday night and also Wednesday night. We're going to talk about Tuesday night's games now. You can see Max is very excited about this. And before we turn our man Max loose with his analysis of all these games, reminder, our show is presented by BetOnline. The last of the major pro sports leagues is off and rolling. College basketball is here as well. BetOnline remains your top spot for all your live betting action and contests. NFL, college football, UFC, NHL, all in full swing. BetOnline is your number one source for wagering news, odds, trends, and predictions. All the hoops betting action, along with every sport available at your fingertips with both desktop and mobile access at any time. Head to the BetOnline app today or the site today. Remember to use our promo code BELIEVE, that's BLEAV, for your 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. BetOnline, where the game starts. Okay, well, the games start at 6 Central. There's 3 of those at 6 Central. First one we're going to talk about, Mississippi State travels to Atlanta to face Georgia Tech. Line on this one about 8 points. Ken Palm's got it around 11. You can catch it on the ACC Network Max. Mississippi State has played well. It's found some shooting. It still does not have Tulu Smith, but it is undefeated. It's got some nice wins and looking really strong as it heads to Atlanta to face a Tech team that has struggled so far.
That's a kind way of putting it, Chris. That's a very kind way of putting it. Yeah, first off, I cannot wait for these games. Last week, I hope everyone had a great Thanksgiving week with family and friends and everything. I was locked in to Feast Week. My aunt one time came over to me and was like, Max, you're so quiet over here in the corner. And I'm like, I've been waiting for these games for months.
Your aunt must not know you well.
Yeah. I'm like, I'm locked in right now. But yeah, okay. Mississippi State in Atlanta at Georgia Tech. It's got a little bit of a low total and good reason. This is going to be a bit of a rock fight. I'm not a big fan of Georgia Tech, Chris. I mean, they've only beaten Georgia Southern, who hasn't won a game, and barely came back in the second half from 14 down against Howard. Mississippi State should be able to control the boards. Georgia Tech has a decent offensive rebounding percentage, and I just think that's going to be washed out by the big guys of Mississippi State. So I think the spread is right on point. I would even have it more closer towards where it opened at like 9.5, 10-ish. But yeah, I think this is just a good matchup for Mississippi State going against a team that doesn't really shoot that well.
Yeah, last game for Georgia Tech, an 89-54 loss to Cincinnati. Ugh. State has not played a true road game yet. 3 neutral site games and 3 home games. So for whatever that's worth, unbeaten, having won 3 neutral site games over Arizona State, Washington State, and Northwestern, and all those by at least 9 points. So I'm with you. I'll take Mississippi State in this one. Okay, next up, we've got Notre Dame visiting Columbia, South Carolina, Colonial Life Arena, tip-off at 6 Central again on the SEC Network. South Carolina also unbeaten and probably been a better version of South Carolina we thought. Notre Dame has struggled, just has not looked good so far. Expectations for Notre Dame were not high coming into the season, and let's say they lost to somebody in the SEC. I want to say it was Auburn.
It was Auburn.
83-59. So, yeah, South Carolina's got to be feeling good about where it stands heading into the game with the Fighting Irish.
Yeah, this is the lowest total of the slate today, down at 133. It's actually the only total under 140. So this is going to be a slow-paced game. Both teams play at slower paces. And if you haven't watched Notre Dame yet, they played Auburn. They run almost everything through Marcus Burton. He's like one of the top usage rate guys in the country. So expect a lot of Burton. But I think one stat that just really stood out to me was Notre Dame's three-point defense is 233rd in the country, and then South Carolina's three-point offense is 21st. So South Carolina's really been shooting the rock well, and Notre Dame's been giving up open looks. And in a low total game with low possessions, a few threes can be the difference. So look to see how South Carolina shoots from the outside here. That might be the difference in this one.
All right, next up, LSU travels to Syracuse. LSU's been really up and down, but has played much better ball since it blew that late game against Dayton and then lost to Nicholls State right before that. Since then has beaten two quality teams in North Texas and Wake Forest, and then was just pedestrian in a win over a bad North Florida team. Syracuse, on the other hand, has lost to Tennessee and Gonzaga, both double-digit losses. No real wins of note, although Colgate could be a nice one at the end of the season. How are we looking at this one, Max?
For those of you that do not know, I grew up in upstate New York, Syracuse country. I've been to countless games, and I've watched every second of them this year. So probably outside of the SEC, the team I have the best overall understanding on is Syracuse. And Chris, I think you could rebound better than Syracuse.
Wow.
They are horrid at rebounding the basketball. So Will Baker and Jalen Reed, I think they're in for a big game down low. Syracuse has 7'4" Naheem McLeod, but similar to Jamarian Sharp, it's like they're so tall and so lengthy that they struggle to catch and struggle to rebound. So I think, Syracuse has the guard edge with Judah Mintz and J.J. Starling. They have the guard edge. LSU has the front court edge. Kind of a clash, and that's why you see this 1.5 pretty much even spread. I don't know how you separate these teams. I mean, this is like a sneaky kind of game of the night where, in terms of entertainment, where this is going to be a close one with a high total.
Yeah, Ken Pom has got it at 1 in Syracuse's favor. I'm sorry, Ken Pom has got, I think, 1 in LSU's favor.
Tight game.
It does, and the odds of BetOnline's got at 1 point Syracuse's favor, so that just proves your point.
Yep.
Okay, next up, we have got Miami going to Lexington to face Kentucky, where Kentucky's not been as invincible as it once was in Rupp Arena, but still a very good Kentucky team. One that we debated putting first in our power rankings. Ken Pom has got Kentucky by 6 in this one. BetOnline, let me find this here, and if you've got it, feel free to chime in.
Are you looking for the spreads?
Yes, I am.
I believe it's up to Kentucky -7 after it opened at Kentucky -6.
I found it. So, yeah. All right, Miami, a team with a lot of really good players who played a lot of ball for significant stakes. Kentucky, very young, as we have pointed out. Sometimes that shows up in Kentucky's play, but the talent undeniable, and I'm looking forward to seeing this one.
So Miami's a hard team to peg because they're number 8 in the country, but if Drake makes a few shots in March, they were up 8 with like 5 minutes left. We're not even talking about Miami being top 10 in the country. They have some studs for sure. Pack, Poplar, Cleveland, O'Meara. I mean, they've got some really good guys. They kind of struggle on the defensive end, and that's why we're seeing this total up at 164. I mean, talk about a track meet. They're projecting both teams to reach 80+. This is just a game of matchups for me. You have like very clear-cut positional matchups. You got Norchad O'Meara versus Trey Mitchell up top. O'Meara's got a little bit of size and strength on him, but Mitchell's got a little bit more athleticism and perimeter play. And then at the 4, Matthew Cleveland against the Arrow. Very good matchup, kind of switched. The Arrow a little bit more physical, Cleveland a little bit more athletic. And then at the wing, Wooga Poplar and Reeves, the three-point shooters. It's just every position, you got a great matchup. This is like game of the week for me personally. I know Kansas and UConn play later on down, I think it's Friday, but man, this is game of the week for me. I can't wait for this one.
Two things that pop off the page here, Max. Kentucky has been a very un-Kentucky-like team offensively that's been very reliant on the 3.
Yes.
42.5% of its shots have come from three-point land, which is 4th in the country. Miami, number 1 in that component, 45.8%. So these teams are going to shoot a lot of threes. Yeah. Miami so far has been much better at defending the 3 than Kentucky, 27% compared to 33% allowed. Although small sample size, some would say three-point defense is a little harder to predict anyway, I guess. I don't know what the most recent metrics tell us, but all that to say there's a little bit of randomness in threes, and man, we're going to see a lot of them in this one.
This is going to be a fun one. This is if you watched Tennessee and Purdue last week during Feast Week and you want to cleanse the eyeballs, this is a good one. This is going to be fun.
Yeah, Kentucky is a lot of fun to watch offensively. So I'm looking forward to seeing that one. That I'm with you. That might be the top one I want to see. Okay, audience might have a little interest in Missouri and Pitt. Missouri 5-2, Pitt 5-1. Missouri has had some issues of late. The offense has not been there the way it was a year ago. Pitt and Missouri, both teams that went to the NCAA tournament a year ago. Missouri 91st in Ken Palm, and it is expected to lose this one by about 9 to Pitt, according to Ken Palm. Odds makers have got this. Let's see.
It opened 6.5. I don't know what it's moved to.
Okay, so yeah, right in the same range, a little lower than Ken Palm. How do you see this one?
So there's one like glaring statistic that I'm seeing why this spread is where it's at, and that's got to be rebounding. Mizzou is coming off of a game where they got out rebounded by Loyola Maryland. That's unacceptable. But they've played two high majors, Minnesota and Memphis. Rebounding margin against Minnesota, Missouri was -16. Against Memphis, they were -14. So in two high major games for Missouri, they've been out rebounded by 30. And that's just not going to cut it. Guess what? Pitt is just such a good rebounding team. They're number one in the nation in opponent offensive rebound percentage. They're going to clean up the defensive glass. And then they're 10th in the nation in offensive rebounding. They rebound 40% of their misses. So, I mean, This Pitt team's just going to crush the boards. So what does that mean? That means Missouri's got to shoot well. You're going to have to get a good shooting night out of Caleb Grill and Nick Honor. I think Tanjay is good to go tonight, so that might add a little perimeter pop. But Missouri's going to have to make shots because I'm telling you right now, they're not going to clean up the glass.
Yeah. Ken Palm has got Pitt 11th on the defensive glass, 23.8%. I don't know if you're using Bart Torvik.
I was using some Torvik numbers.
Yeah. Okay. So I mean, they're similar, but not always alike. But point is, Pitt's really good at that. Missouri's offense just 95th in Ken Palm too. That's not something I expected.
Yeah, they're missing the stars from last year a little bit.
Yeah.
Brown and Hodge, and they're just they've got a bunch of new pieces, kind of trying to find their way and find the who are they going through right now. Nick Honor is kind of the highest usage guy on that offense, and I'm not sure if that's what Dennis Gates really wants. So they're still kind of figuring it out. Still early. This is a good test. Pitt is good. I'm telling you right now, Pitt is good.
8:30 Central, ESPN2, NC State and Ole Miss. Ole Miss is unbeaten, but hasn't looked great in doing it. Hasn't played much of anybody. It's had some close games against some fairly pedestrian teams. Max, how you look at this one?
The undefeated Ole Miss Rebels, that is, Chris.
Right. That is true. And that's why there was some debate about Ole Miss in the power rankings because, hey, we've talked about several teams in this league that have had some bad losses. So say this for Ole Miss. The Rebels, even though these games have been closer than we would have anticipated, have taken care of business.
Yeah, I mean, Ole Miss received votes for the AP poll. I don't really care much for the AP poll this early on. I like to look at a little bit more analytics-based, but received votes for the AP poll for the first time in 4 years. So they're off to a good start. Now listen to this. So I think this is going to be a close game. I think it's going to be if you're playing Ole Miss, it's going to be close. I just think that's how a Chris Beard team's going to play right now. But I was looking at Alan Flanagan's usage because he has the second highest usage rate in the SEC, only behind Wade Taylor, who's playing without Radford, who's playing without Marble, and really having to do a lot. So Wade Taylor's usage might be a little bit higher than it normally would. Alan Flanagan has the second highest usage rate. So I was thinking, I'm like, you know what? This is kind of reminding me of Jarrett Culver in that 2019 Texas Tech team that Chris Beard had. And I was like, you know what? Let me go back and look at what his usage was. So I went on Torvik and I looked back at the 2019 Big 12 usage. Jarrett Culver was number one in the Big 12 in usage by over 4% higher than Dedrick Lawson at Kansas in second. So I'm not saying Chris Beard has a national title contender team here in Ole Miss. All I'm saying is that he's forming this offense similar to that 2019 team where you have one kind of oversized 6'5", 6'6" guard that likes to play that mid-range post kind of play, and you work the offense around him rather than kind of a traditional point guard. That's all I'm trying to say here, and I thought that was interesting. Just like Chris Beard knows what he's doing here, and the team's only going to get a little bit better. He's had this type of system before. Tonight, it's going to be a lot of Allen Flanagan again. But what I'm interested is, how does Jamarian Sharp go against Quinnen Williams?
DJ
Or
Burns.
I meant DJ Burns.
Yeah, that's where I was going to go next, because Burns is a handful.
If you haven't seen Burns play yet and you're like, it's just NC State, this DJ Burns guy is a problem. I'm telling you, he's a problem. If he didn't get into ticky-tacky foul trouble against Creighton, NC State wins that game last March Madness. Burns was giving it to Kalkbrenner. I'm telling you, this Burns guy's good.
Yeah, I don't know what they list him at weight-wise, but it's got to be north.
Whatever it is, add 25 onto it.
He is difficult to move, but anyway, looking forward to seeing that one. I think NC State's got the edge in that, although that is in Oxford, and that'll be the biggest game so far for Chris Beard in his short tenure in Oxford. All right, next up, Clemson. Clemson, Alabama. This one at Coleman Coliseum, with the Crimson Tide play pretty well. We have talked about Alabama scoring. I think they average around 99 points a game. Clemson, a formidable foe, a potential NCAA tournament type team. Alabama has been getting less than desirable results on the defensive end, but my goodness, these guys can score with anybody. Number one in the country in Ken Pomeroy offensive efficiency.
And for good reason. The offense looks beautiful. And I'm telling you right now, if Clemson puts Joe Girard on Mark Sears might have 40 points. Joe Girard's one of the worst defensive guards in the country. I'm just expecting points. Huge matchup, though, in the front court. P.J. Hall against Grant Nelson. If they match up, if you guys don't know about P.J. Hall in the ACC, this guy is averaging over 20 a game and got preseason first-team All-ACC honors. This guy is a good mid-range, low-post player, and that's what Alabama's defense struggled with against Ohio State. So I think this is a winnable game for Alabama, where you can put Rylan Griffin on Chase Hunter and have his length on the perimeter, disrupt him a little bit. If you can just contain P.J. Hall, show me you can contain the front court scoring, and then we might be off and running here with Alabama. But this is a test. Yeah. This is not just a walk in the park Clemson team. They've got some guys.
Yeah. Off and running is a good way to describe Alabama. 27th in the country in tempo, third in average possession length, 13.7 seconds per offensive possession. No, this is what's interesting. Defensively, 18.7 seconds per possession. So actually, the Tide kind of grinds you out a little bit on that end, even though the defensive efficiency, 61st overall, not great. But this is one where if people haven't seen Grant Nelson, that might be appointment TV in that one, because he is so fun to watch.
And it's just especially like when you have teams that can make shots. They had Chase Hunter, and Girard he's not that good at defense, but the guy can shoot. You have shot makers in this game. You don't have a ton of, oh my God, this guy is going to just control the paint and you're not getting anything near the rim. No, this is going to be a free-flowing, fast-paced offensive game. And I think it's 8:30 Central. Tune in for the nightcap, because it's going to be fun.
All right, Max, any parting thoughts on ACC SEC Challenge? For Tuesday, we'll have Wednesday's previewed coming up soon as well, of course.
I mean, all I can say is, we're back. Felt like we just took a month off with no SEC basketball. Come on. I'm fired up.
We are too. Can't wait to see these. We'll try to recap these probably Wednesday morning, maybe Tuesday night. Best way to catch that, subscribe to the channel, hit your notifications. God bless you guys. Have a great day. Thank you for watching Southeastern 14, presented by BetOnline.